So this is going to be a very short test on my process for making stuff, right? So I have this is Clip Studio Paint, my usual program for making art at the moment, and I have this template open, and so I usually have something where I have the title of what I'm gonna so this is Lenor, a fantasy world. The thing I'm going to be actually doing is DragonMen. And so I have this whole list of things. So first, let's look at the world. The world is like this. This is the map of Lenor. Lenor, the map. And the DragonMen live in this area of the map, right? So this is the empire is composed of this, the DragonMen, the Aetherians, and the witches of the west, right? So this is the empire proper. They once had all of this, which is mostly the humans, but now they have been reduced to just this. Okay. So the empire has been pushed to just the major. This is the empire proper. They used to have all of this. Now it's just this. So the DragonMen live here, and that is the continent of Lenor. So first, what I usually like to do when I start drawing, before I draw anything, right? I do a list of ideas, my idea list. So the DragonMen, what are the ideas that I have for this? The DragonMen are 3 tribes of people. One became the dominant, and then they're just now all lumped into one. But before, it was 3 tribes. The DragonMen are larger than average men. So say it's like NBA rules of height, where to them, they can be an average height. Some are taller, some are shorter, but then compare them to average people. It's sort of like that. So they're larger than average men. And also more robust. They are dragon slayers. The area that they used to live in, well, they live in, the area that they live in was once dragon territory. A lot of dragons. The dragons have now moved up to the Dragon Isles, which is mostly here, and also some are here. But they used to be very, very big in this area, and so they had to contend with the dragons. And they had to become expert dragon slayers. So that is part of their culture. Dragon slaying, and then they used to use the parts of the dragons to make armor and better ways to defend themselves against dragons. They also made cities under hills or under some kind of protection so that they couldn't be attacked by dragons from the air. So they used dragon parts to make or help with their defense. They also then started to consume dragons, and they were known as dragon eaters. They drinkers of dragon's blood, which they didn't know at the time. They thought it was like taking in the animal to be a part of themselves to help them hunt and fight better. They didn't know that it was not good for them. And some of them started to develop dragon eyes. They also wear dragon scale armor to mimic the dragons that they were hunting. So their light armor is a lot of dragon scale, or implied dragon scales. And when we get to the examples, we'll show them some of that. But they're also known for the dragon nail shield, which were actually at one time dragon nails because they were impervious to fire, highly fire resistance. They used to use dragon nails from slain dragons to help defend against the hunt of other larger dragons. And that has become a iconic symbol for them. This large, like 6 foot tall, very large, very heavy shield. It's very iconic for them. But when they go to hunt great dragons, they have this heavy armor. And they're a large shield, very heavily armored to fight in wars and also to hunt dragons. And they also use, because of their great strength they had developed when hunting dragons, the use of great swords, great axes, claymores, dragon lances. They're very large, robust people that can handle heavier weapons, which also aid in the slaying of dragons. But then, of course, eating and drinking dragon parts led to their fall of the DragonMen because of a dragon curse or dragon plague, which they weren't aware of at the time, but over time they became almost like leprosy, very monstrous. The newborns and low mortality rate, and some even went mad. So they learned to not, do that, but the damage was pretty much done because of past indulgences. And then after, the monstrosities, they started to hide them away in the old cities that were built underground, which has become grave cities for the rejects. And while above ground, the ones that were more able to handle it now live and rule their section of the empire. So this is how I usually start off with ideas. I make an idea list. I think about all the things that I want to think about for making a character design. And that's what I've done. This is like my first initial step. You just want to get your ideas out. Get your ideas out onto where you can see it, and then you can build upon that. This is a test. Okay, so the DragonMen of Lenor. Again, they live here. And now let's talk about my next step would be, once I have the ideas out, I then go find reference. So this is a reference. The things that I've gathered, put into a file for the DragonMen. And there are different aspects of the DragonMen, right? So in stature and build, they're more like a rock type, right? This is the rock. He has a very robust build. And most of the people of the DragonMen are of a more robust build. So something like this. Also, when I'm thinking about other ways to think about what these people are like or what they do, the dragon scale armor, right? The light armor mimics dragon scales. So I have examples of that. I like this really colorful one right here. So different tribes, different houses and people can have certain colors of their respective areas. And they like, in light armor, the dragon scales. In heavy armor, when they're about to go to war or fight dragons, they put on something much heavier for defense. And the dragon nail shield is mimicking a heater shield in real life, but at a very large scale because they're very robust people. And they mimic the dragon's nail. And it's fireproof, and it's one of their most defining features. Heavily armored, dragon nail shield, scale armor for light, and also large weapons. So the idea in art form is Guts from Berserk, right? Guts, large, robust, has a very large sword. So in art form, this is what I'm thinking of when I think of the DragonMen, right? So you use all of these ideas to come up with concepts that aid, what you're thinking about so that you can then develop something, right? You want an idea to build upon. And it's like, okay, one idea leads to another idea, and you just keep stacking ideas until you have a better idea of who the people are, what do they do, how do they make war, what do they kind of sort of look like, and then you can go from that. So that is the reference. And so first it started off just ideas as written out. Then I go find references, and then I start to do some sketching. So I just do loose gestural. So this is an example of a normal person, right? The average human being, maybe short of 6 feet, and this would be the DragonMen, their average stature, right? Maybe a head or two above what the normal is. And I just work out, okay, what are some poses, some loose gestural poses that I can do to think about and flesh out the figure of the DragonMen. And this is when things get fun for me, right? Because you have the ideas, you have the references, and then you start to draw. And now let's do a little bit of we'll select one, and then we'll draw on top because we can refine it more. And then it's just about, at this point, refinement, right? Getting the ideas out. So let's do, I like this pose right here. So I can duplicate this layer, duplicate layer. I can turn one off. I can M for the lasso. Select this guy. Command T. And then I can adjust it. If I hold Shift, I can keep it 1-to-1, just scale it up. If I don't hold Shift, I can make it wider, squatter, all of that. Command Z to undo. Yeah, let's make them a little bit wider. So without holding Shift, I can adjust it. All right. And then hit Enter. Command D to deselect. And now we have our guy. And now we can make a new layer. I already have one. And we'll call this drawn layer. Draw. And then we just draw on top. Or we can just draw on that same layer because we already have a new copy of it. So I hit P twice to get the pencil tool. Adjust the size. Right, and I'm not at this point going into detail, but let's clean up some of this, right? So let's knock this back a little bit. Knock back, I mean, drop the opacity to down to maybe about 30. And then go back to the draw layer, and then we draw. So they're robust people, so they have a wider frame, right? I like this. This is his main standing leg, so he has that contrapposto. So hip tilt, shoulder tilt. Because he has his hand on his hip, this shoulder is up a little bit. And this is more relaxed. And the through line is like this, right? So we're trying to add a little bit of drama in our posing. So wider, we want that side plane. We'll make a box for the hips. Box for the hips. The circles for joints. Circles for knees and ankles, wrists. And then we connect those, well, a circle for the cranium of the head. And I want them to have like a square jaw, a thicker neck, and more developed trapezoids, right? The straps, everything's a little bit bigger, right? In comparison to the normal person. Maybe a slimmer waist, hand on his hip. And so the muscles, we did this recently in our boot camp. So we got on the back, we got the tricep, the bicep in the front, brachialis on the side. We got the deltoid, the pecs, and we're not going too deep into this because we'll just refine it over and over again. We're trying to get the basic structure down so that we can plus it later on. Okay, elbow. Got extensors and flexors of the forearm. The brachioradialis comes out and comes toward the thumb. Let's say thicker calf muscles. Again, we're thinking about how the rock is built. Like a guy who works out regularly. Patella for the kneecap. Patellar tendon goes towards the ankle. The gastrocnemius of the inside. Develop calf muscles. Right, and the feet make fairly simply 3 parts: the heel, the foot pad, and the toes. Again, the heel, the foot pad, and the toes. And this is just a very quick, roughly done person. And of course there will be adjustments and all of that, but we just want the basics. Right, so this is what it was, this is what it is now. And then we just keep refining and refining. Six pack, the rectus abdominis, and then the lower goes into the groin. And then let's think about his, let's say he has his large sword. Much like guts. Right, let's say it's a little bit like this. A nice heavy sword. Best for dragon fighting. And let's say on this other side is a shield. And if the shield is like 6 feet, right? I'm just making this stuff up. I'm just making it up. So it's the dragon nail shield. It comes to a point, so he can slam it into the ground and make it stand up on its own. So this is the inside. He's got it strapped, whatever. And this is the basics of my process. So let's run it down one more time. Right? So first, I usually have just the briefest idea. Fantasy world, I've already mapped out, what the continent of Lenor looks like, and then where the people live, and then what the people do. I work out the ideas that they're dragon slayers, call them the DragonMen. They're professional dragon hunters and dragon consumers, which has driven them a little bit kooky. But they're more robust. And then I build up that idea list into a gathering reference, which can be anything that can add to, from the big to the small, whatever ideas, even things that aren't related to each other. If you find some kind of connection between these ideas, go for it. Because more reference, more ideas that can help flesh out what you want to present is good. Right, so we got the rock, large, robust people, large weapons, heavily armored, and heavy, and then light armor with scales. And the iconic dragon nail shield. And then we go from that, after the reference, to do some loose gestural sketches, and then we just develop that. And then of course I'll take this further, but as a test, this is my process. This is how I go from initial ideas to the beginning of developing something that is more concrete, more in line. And of course I'll work on this over and over again in time to develop it out, flesh it out, along with some others, to more keenly get my ideas the way I want them. And then we have the DragonMen. So I have been Trey Hodges. Thank you for this stream test. Power to all the creators. You can find me on treyhodges.com. And I will see you. I'm going to do a few more tests to try out this streaming thing. But thank you for joining me, and I will see you on either my next stream or my next video. Take care. Keep shining.